Hello, welcome back to TV Toastmasters. I'm your host, Linda Bard. Our guest on this segment is Teresa Rodden, author and coach who is spearheading a sober revolution. And today we'll be talking about her book, Wholly Sober. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you.
So, a sober revolution, why do you feel the need to be starting this?
I have to back up and go to when I first got sober over 15 years ago. I started in the traditional recovery path, and I had to make a choice whether I wanted my sobriety or if I wanted to stay in recovery. And luckily for me, I made the right choice. I hopped on my pink cloud and I rode out of the rooms of traditional recovery, and I've been sober ever since, 15 years later.
So the traditional recovery is the AA environment, and you are a believer that it really is about taking power over our lives, that to fall into that it's a disease, you know, I'm an alcoholic, that is also taking power away from you to live your best life?
Oh, absolutely. It even says in the, one of the first steps is that I am powerless. And for a woman who is misusing alcohol, typically they're misusing it because there is a sense of powerless or a sense of hopelessness or a sense of helplessness. I come from a lineage of women who misused alcohol, and each one of them had incredibly broken and painful lives that their only sense of freedom was to misuse alcohol, was to get drunk. That was when they felt their most empowered. Unfortunately, it didn't serve them well. It ended up in beatings and rapes and hospitalizations.
So we were talking about the nature versus nurture. Mm-hmm. So you had commented that that we can be genetically predisposed.
Absolutely.
But
there's a couple things there, is that there is no one gene that makes us an alcoholic or have an addiction. But we do have, as Bruce Lipton, who is an actual biologist, as he describes it, is that we have a blueprint. And if we follow the way our parents acted or the way our family acted and the way they behaved and the way that they dealt with pain and trouble, it was to use alcohol, and we're watching that, then we're probably going to build the same architecture on top of that blueprint. However, if we change our thinking and we change our environment and the way that we have relationships, we absolutely have the power to take charge of our lives and not become alcoholic. I often say, I wasn't born an alcoholic, I was primed to misuse alcohol.
So this learned behavior, this programming,
yeah,
as
absolutely.
It were. What was the turning point for you where you just made up your mind? You went into an AA environment, but what was the turning point for you that just said, done, can't be doing this anymore?
I wish I had a really glamorous, kind of exciting story to tell you about that. The only thing I can say is that probably the last 30 or more, 60 days of my drinking, I was waking up every day wondering, why am I still here? Why am I still here? I'm absolutely, life sucks, I hate it, I'm being abused, and I have no hope to do anything different. Then one day I woke up and I had these auras, this interruption in my eyesight. And Prince Harming at the time, my boyfriend, my abuser, took me to the emergency room, and there was a kind young doctor there who just took the time to educate me. He wasn't shaming me, he wasn't telling me I was a bad person or that I was going to die or anything like that. He just said, hey, look, you're a woman. Alcohol breaks down a woman's body and her brain much faster than a man. Let's take some tests and see where you're at here. You're drinking a lot. And with that sign of compassion and just that patience, I made the decision on my way home that I'm done. I'm done drinking. And I got myself into the traditional treatment path the next day.
So you mentioned Prince Charming.
Yes.
And, you know, obviously a play on the Prince Charming that all little girls kind of are indoctrinated into through Disney and all of those other things. You know, again, this place of giving away your power,
Right.
right? The hoping someone else makes it better. What is, you know, when in the book that you talk about that, do you give examples of how these types of princes show up, or do you speak specifically to your Prince Charming?
The beautiful thing about Holy Sober, the book, is that it's not a drunkalogue, and there's not a lot of emotion fed into it, but what it is kind of a linear kind of path of how I was primed to misuse alcohol, how I started making steps, starting with being 5 years old and having my first hangover on Christmas morning. I mean, that didn't like ignite an alcoholic bug or anything, but it taught me that alcohol's okay, and alcohol, you know, in Christmas time, I kind of made that relationship, right?
Was it the eggnog punch?
No, it was rum and Coke, actually.
Oh, right.
But it shows the, you know, the step by step that I wasn't born an alcoholic, but I made these decisions that kind of left me susceptible to needing to numb out because I was causing more and more pain, which is I also refer to as the drunk cycle, where we have pain, we drink more for that pain, and we create problems.
So, in your family, then, you said it's been 15 years. What kind of response, feedback have you gotten from, say, the women in your life?
Oh, that's very interesting that you asked that. Actually, they're all sober. So
Inspired by you?
You like
to think that?
Yeah, I guess they were. My sister did get sober a couple years after I did, and then my mother followed suit. And neither one of them went to the traditional path. They just stopped. So that, again, kind of dispels that you're once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, and you're hooked and you can't beat the beast.
So your Pink Cloud coaching has sort of, were you doing coaching prior to this but not around this subject matter? Or did you create your coaching business specifically to address helping women understand what this is doing to their lives?
Since I got sober, I have been working with women around health and wellness. And I tipped my toes into recovery coaching about 2008, 2009, but again, it didn't resonate with me. It wasn't fitting. People were looking for 12-step answers when I didn't support that process. And it wasn't effective for me, and in fact, I had to hop on my Pink Cloud and ride away from it in order to save my sobriety. In 2012, made a mindful decision that I was going to push against the establishment and say, I draw a line in the sand. Your way is not the only way, and I'm going to show you how and why.
So you have this 28-day process, this 28-day resolve.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
What I love about the 28-day resolve is that it starts from the outside in and helps the women really identify what the pain is. What's that pain? Where's that unfulfillment or that dissonance or that fear or that loneliness component, that pain? Let's identify what that is, and then let's see if it's really as big as you've made it out to be, because our perception is so powerful, right? And then once we identify that and break it down to the truth of what it is, then we start looking for, okay, so what do you want? Because we've got to fill that space. So now what do you want? And then we kind of explore who she is as a woman. And then we put together a strategic plan for her to move forward and go after life sober. Whether that's mindful moderation or abstinence, because sobriety does not mean abstinence.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, because anyone who kind of might think I'm doing a little too much, it's like, no, absolutely
Right.
not. And I love what you said, is that where are you not, taking ownership of your choices? Where are you making excuses?
Right.
And where are you not being authentic to yourself? I mean, the work that I do with hand analysis, if you're in the school of love, it is about the master path is being emotionally authentic, speaking your truth. And the student path of that is stuffing your feelings.
Right.
And so we had talked earlier about, when you stuff your feelings, you've got to sort of not, because you're doing it. And so rather than continually beating yourself up about it, you numb yourself out around those issues.
And then you beat yourself up the next day.
And then you beat yourself, exactly.
Right, and that's
so
something
does
we
become
arrest.
Yes.
There's no space for that. It's all about self-love, and it's about self-respect and self-confidence and self-esteem. You are so powerful and wonderful and deserving, and please, please, please just stop hurting yourself.
So how do you get, when women first come to you, and you're out there, you speak, you have obviously the book, and there are ways that you're getting your message out there. When women first come to you, what are they kind of like? There's this classic erectile dysfunction ad on the radio, and
where are you going with this?
Well, no, it's this like, I'm asking for a friend, so do they literally come up and say, I have a girlfriend who blah, 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 because they really can't own what it is that it's them? Or do they just go, girl, you are speaking to me, and I need what you got, please help me? How does that?
First of all, I stopped going out and about because I am the last person they want to be seen talking to. If I go to a book fair, I am the last person people will come and talk to, because they don't want to be associated, because it's all one way or the other, right?
Interesting.
So if it's wholly sober, then clearly it's about alcoholism, and I'm not an alcoholic. So again, the sober revolution is really going to draw a very hard line in the sand, sober is not about alcoholism. It's not about abstinence. So what I do, I get a lot of phone calls, and the phone calls are normally like, I cannot believe you're speaking exactly what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. And they're very open, and they're very receptive, and most of my consultations take less than 15 minutes, and they're ready to get started.
So working with them, I mean, again, you have this 28-day process. Where do you, after they go through that, then what happens?
Well, because my clients are all very empowered to make their own choices, so they can either continue with me coaching as needed, or we can set up a regular weekly schedule, or they can take flight. There's really not a rhyme or reason. We all do not fit nicely in a box. So I don't go beyond the 28 days. It's up to them and how committed they are to their process.
So, do you have children?
I do. I have two sons that are 33 and 28. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. I have a daughter who's 33 and a son who's 28. Oh my God.
Wonder what we were doing.
Yeah, really. And so, have you ever had to have this discussion with them?
I was very open with them from the beginning about not about first when I first learned that this is hereditary, and if I'm doing it, you're doing it, so you have to be aware. And then I had to backtrack and retract everything from all the education, all the research I've done, and said, just be honest with yourself and deal with your feelings as they're coming up, and do not stuff them. So I'm very open and honest with my sons about having those real life conversations.
Okay. So then you have another character in the book.
Yeah.
Called B, and it's BEA. Give us a little insight into what B is about.
B was my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous, and she was my everything, and I went into business with her. I wasn't even, they tell you not to get into a relationship in the first year. Well, with B, I was not only in a romantic relationship within 3 months, I was also in a business relationship with her, doing the same work that I was doing with Prince Harming in a position that I hated, and wasn't making the bills. And she basically cut me off, and I was ostracized from our AA community.
Wow.
Yeah. So that could have really been, that could have sent me spiraling down and
Oh, totally.
drunk again. If I was anybody else, maybe it would have, but instead
Well, and to prove your point, you have control of your destiny in that situation. And so it could have been an excuse, but it was an opportunity, almost kind of getting that feeling of, you may not have thought so, but you were ready, and you just kind of got a little shove out of the nest, perhaps sooner than you wanted. I don't know.
I agree with that 100%, because I was feeling as though I was on a cliff. And if I have to say that I'm an alcoholic one more time, and if I have to be in fear of this monster that's out in the parking lot doing push-ups, waiting to take me down, if I have to live in fear, screw it, I'm going to get drunk. I'm done. I'm not going to fight this my entire life. So I really was on that cusp of, am I going to stay in this? Is this really going to be the rest of my life? Or am I going to take charge and do something different? And it was really, she pushed that by her choices, but
yeah,
turned out well.
I can very much see how that it's almost like walking around with the scarlet letter, right? The A, and this situation would be for alcoholism, but it doesn't give you any opportunity. I mean, I understand, yes, you want to be aware, you want to be cognizant of what this is about, but if you're spending all this time going over, like, oh, how do I, not let this interfere, and how do I not do this, and how do I not do that? It's all that negative thinking, and as opposed to how can I fill my headspace with positive thoughts and fill my life with things that make me happy, and so it makes perfect sense to me.
Well, it kind of subscribes to the where your focus goes, energy flows.
Yeah.
So if I'm focusing constantly on being sick and broken and powerless,
Yes.
guess what? I'm reinforcing that message from the universe. If I'm focusing on I'm empowered, what do I get to do next? Then it's filled of excitement and enthusiasm and all things pink.
So give me a little background about the metaphor, the pink cloud. Where did that come from?
Oh, that is such a good story. Is because when I was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was only there for about 6 to 9 months. But I was a devout member. I went to 2 meetings every single day. I opened meetings, I sponsored, I was a greeter, I made coffee, I collected the monies. I did everything to protect my sobriety.
Which is amazing, because somebody might say, oh, well, you didn't give it very much
Oh,
of a
I
chance.
gave it everything.
Yeah.
I gave it everything because my sobriety meant everything to me.
Yes.
That was my freedom. So the pink cloud, so I ended up having to file a triple bankruptcy. I lost my house. Vendors actually came to my house while I was away and ripped the carpet out and took down the light fixtures. I mean, I should have been destitute, and I guess I was financially, but I was so happy. It's like, I have this freedom, you don't understand. And they said, well, you're on a pink cloud, you're going to come crashing down any time. Well, there's a pink cloud syndrome in Alcoholics Anonymous, that when you're newly sober, that you feel like you can conquer the world and that you've got this thing, and then all of a sudden you're going to come crashing down, you're going to get drunk, and your life is going to be worse than ever, and you'll probably kill somebody. I can show you the writing on this. And after a while, it was like, I'm going to stay on my pink cloud because I'm not letting you take that from me. And I've been on my pink cloud ever since.
It's a fabulous story. And it's interesting because the energy of, oh, you're going to come crashing down. It's almost like that parental, oh, you think you're so good, you're too big for your britches.
It's exactly like that.
And the other part is that they're projecting, and not that they haven't seen people, relapse or whatever, but they're projecting their own fear that it might happen to them. So I'll just put it out onto you, and under the guise of trying to help you and save you and whatever. So when you work with these women now, do you find that they're really willing to examine the stuff that they've kept in that, and I'm talking about not the bad stuff, but that creative, with my clients, I talk about holding your muse hostage, right? So where do these women, when they open that door, or when they open Pandora's box or whatever it is, what do they discover in there about themselves?
They will, of course, it runs the gamut.
It's varied, right.
But the beautiful thing about the 28-day resolve is I've formulated 4 different assessments. So we, like I said, we start from the outside and we work all the way in. But they've been divinely inspired. So they help you creep open that door. So you're not just like, bam, and so you shut down, right? So you accidentally become, you accidentally discover insight and wisdom. And so what a lot of women discover is that they have something that, they've needed to share that they haven't shared, or that they're not happy in their marriage, and that needs to be addressed. And a lot of times women will say, I just don't want to be in this marriage anymore, but what they haven't explored is, what if you showed up differently?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who could he be? So we get to play with that, and I get to hold space with them and be, tender and respectful and patient for them to come around to consider the possibilities.
Well, this is a fabulous book, Wholly Sober by Teresa Rodden. And where might we find more about you?
Oh, please come to pinkcloudcoaching.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's an amazing subject. I love that you've revolutionized the approach to it. And you're right, there's more than one way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for watching TV Toastmasters. Our guest has been Teresa Rodden, and I'm your host, Linda Bard. So please join us again next time.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me incredible confidence.
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 Great listening skills.
Poise.
Great leadership skills.
Leadership skills.
The ability to speak in public.
Strength. A captive audience.
Quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
Sales skills.
Opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
Wonderful way to meet people.
Networking. Strength. It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Toastmasters helped me land a kick-butt job. I sang at one of my table topic speeches, and people liked it and applauded.
My business is doing great, and I'm very, very grateful to Toastmasters.
It's been a great experience for me.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for giving me so much confidence.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for everything.